In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus said, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations." Jesus is telling us that God desires places where people of all ethnicities can pray and worship in harmony. Over the last 400 years, the United States of America has had major migrations from many different parts of the world. However, in the 21st century, the largest share of immigrants has come from Latin America and Asia. Today, though the United States is more diverse than ever, it is also as divided as ever. Welcome, Pastor Rodriguez. You are broadly recognized as one of the leading, or perhaps the leading, Latino Hispanic religious leader in the United States. Tell me, what do you think it will take for minority-led churches to begin to become a little more culturally plural?
It begins with our extracting the idea of minority-led churches. Let me explain. Horizontally speaking, we can't deny the fact that there are majority groups and minority groups. However, vertically, there's no such word as minority in the Bible.
Sure.
Because I am kingdom-driven, we should look at church planning initiatives or even leading churches, not from a minority point of view, but from a kingdom point of view. And I would argue the kingdom point of view is multi-ethnic, multicultural. I have the privilege of pastoring a church in California that's 40% Black, 40% white, 20% Latino and Asian. We have campuses in Los Angeles and Sacramento. It's a strong congregation, strong ministry, and it was intentional, but it required yours truly, along with our team, by the grace of God, to be very deliberate about a certain number of components, which included our board of trustees must be reflective of the people we want to reach, our praise and worship team, our leadership in every single department, ministry, every single silo. So we're very intentional about making sure that we reflect what we want to see.
Okay, so when you speak of being intentional, are you speaking of quotas? Are you speaking of affirmative action? What are you speaking of? Yeah.
Great question. Not necessarily quotas, and affirmative action has a political implication to it, a nuance to it. Yeah. I see it as kingdom. You want to call it whatever you want. You want to call it affirmative action. So do I deliberately make certain I have a person of Asian descent on our team? Yes. You want to call it affirmative action, call it whatever you want. Am I certain that we have African-American, Latino, whites? We are to be advancing the kingdom of heaven here on earth. The church must be a composite of what we want to see in Revelation. Bishop, at the end of the day, here's what I read in Revelation. All races, creeds, worshiping the Lamb together, right? We're all going to be together. Might as well practice now. Sure. And that's my heart and commitment. I am so obsessed with planting multi-ethnic kingdom culture congregations in America. I believe it's going to serve as an antidote to some of the racial discord. It may very well be the solution to these troubled times.
Why do you think today we still have so much division on Sunday morning?
I don't see it as this malice conspiracy. Mm-hmm. I see self-preservation as a subconscious imperative for the purposes of continuing these monochromatic services on Sunday. I've heard both on African-American and my white brothers and sisters, I've heard African-American pastors who are great friends of mine going, in order to preserve the Black culture, the Black church may very well be the greatest institution to preserve the Afro-American narrative. And I've heard some white brothers who have stated, we don't discriminate. However, we have our way of thinking, our values. So, it is what it is. And I'm going, I'm just not drinking that. I'm not. Again, I don't sense like super malice, like this, evil racist motif. What I sense is self-preservation. Like, are we going to preserve our culture and our heritage? This may very well be the last silo. And I have to push back on that. The culture of the kingdom of God trumps any other culture. I am honored and blessed to be of Latino descent. Praise be God for that. But my kingdom culture is much more important than my Hispanic ethnicity. I am Christian before I am American. I am Christian before I am Latino. And I would argue if we're Christians before we're Black or white, we would flip the script in America and really shine. It doesn't negate that we're proud of our ethnicity. No, absolutely. Right. Be you, baby, be you. But more importantly, be him. We can appreciate diversity, but we have to strive for unity.
Great insights, Sam. It was terrific talking with you, Pastor. And Thank you for your time and your contribution. And I'm really excited about your church and all you're doing there.
I apologize for being so wired. I had an almond milk latte with an extra shot. I apologize.
Great talking with you. God bless you. Dr. Chan, so glad you joined us here today. Now, you were born and raised in India in a pastor's home. And I think in your late teens, maybe early 20s, you immigrated to the United States of America. Tell me a little bit about what surprised you most about the racial divide in the United States.
Well, thank you so much, Bishop Derek Grier. Love you, love your heart, love your vision. When I came to the US in 1973, I landed in Atlanta. That placed me at the epicenter of the racial divide immediately. I was 20 years of age at that time. I was surprised that there were Black and white churches divided by color. I remember writing my mother, when I went to the first Black church in our neighborhood for the first time, writing my mother a letter saying, I went to a Black church, and she wrote me back and said, what do you mean Black? Was it painted black? But I'm also aware that there are divisions, prejudices, bigotry in all parts of the world. In India, where I grew up, it was caste system as well as geography. In some countries in Africa, it is tribal and color. In parts of Europe, it is Catholic and Protestant. In the Mideast, it is different sects of Muslims. In Latin America, they have their own rifts. But the divide in 1973, Bishop Grier, was much clearer because there was very little, if any, integration of churches. There's hardly any church where you said Blacks attended in a white church or whites attended in a Black church. Now, it is much more nuanced. And I think because of that, it creates missed opportunities and misunderstandings. And then me as a brown person, not white, not Black, brown, I had to work through where do I fit. So from 1973 to 1989, my world was 100% white. From 1989, when I became president of a Christian college in Atlanta, my world started to expand till I ended up presiding over a university, which became the country's largest predominantly African-American college of its nature. So I have learned this, that relationships are built on similarities and dissimilarities and even differences.
Excellent. Well, very good, Dr. Chan. So glad you can be with us today. Tell me a little bit about what you think could help us maybe bridge this racial divide.
I think people like you, it takes a champion to make that happen. Everywhere in the Bible, God has always used human vessels, human agency, be it Gideon, be it David, be it whoever comes to your mind. And God is using you at this time as the catalyst. So it will take a champion like you who will be able to gather other champions who have a bigger picture. It is much more than bringing Black and white churches together. It's much more than bringing Black and white people together. It is about restoring the kingdom of God to the origin that He intended for it to be. So I applaud you and I thank you, and you just need to know me and a host of others love to serve your vision.
Well, thank you, Dr. Chan. I think there are thousands, if not millions like me across the United States that are concerned about this issue and want to find a way for us to unite and really represent Christ in a way that the world can salute and honor and really live up to all that Jesus wanted us to represent on the earth. God bless you, and appreciate your time.
My joy.
During the riots and national unrest earlier this year, the Lord spoke to my heart saying, bring my people together. As a busy pastor of a fast-growing church and a one-time student activist and also a one-time Black nationalist, I am probably one of the least likely people you can ever imagine and want to contribute to such a movement. But we are in the jaws of a crisis that, if left unaddressed, can rip apart our nation to its very core. In 1838, Abraham Lincoln said, if destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. It cannot come from abroad. In simpler terms, he was predicting that America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we lose our freedoms, it will be because we have destroyed ourselves from within. But imagine what God would do if people of faith spoke to one another, not just at each other or past each other, but really talk directly, honestly, simply, and caringly about issues that matter most. Imagine what God might begin if we admitted our faults, sympathized with one another's pain, and prayed for one another, looking to our God who hears. We have a very, very serious problem today. But as God spoke to the prophets of old, is there anything too hard for the Lord? There is still hope. If you want to make a difference, I ask you to do only 3 things. Number 1, go to letstalklive.org. That's letstalklive.org, and become part of the solution by joining Christians across the United States and sign the statement of change. Number 2, encourage your pastor to join the people interviewed here today and many others to become part of a monthly video call with leaders from across the United States who desire to build relationships, encourage one another, and begin to talk through our differences. Lastly, join us virtually on November 17th as multicultural leaders from across the nation gather for dinner in Washington, D.C. to talk about our joys and pains on our journey to racial unity. Go to letstalklive.org and become part of the change. We can make a difference together.
If you would like to know more about Derek Grier's journey to faith, get your copy of When God Stops, Faith That Gets God's Attention, and remember to sign the statement of change at letstalklive.org.